All right, guys, so we're going to stick with the theme of extended body flies, but we're going to change the format from tying on hard monofilament to tying on tube flies. So before we get started, huge shout out to Mr. Yadi Koski. Yadi has just a really epic fly fishing blog, but he has a post dedicated to the Beast, Bob Popovic's Beast, and also extended body fly tying. So that's linked in the description. It's also linked on my website in the part of the series that we're at, right under the title, so that you guys can find it and read it. It's well worth a read, and it'll give all of this some context. Yadi's like the first guy I've ever seen do an extended body tube fly, and he's been doing it for a few years now, has a ton of water time behind it, and it's truly a tried and true system, and it was the original inspiration for what turned out to be my Build-A-Beast, which was to take the tube and break it into small segments, like half-inch chunks, so that your spacing's equivalent to Popovic's. So this right here is just a big extended body, tube extended body, Build-A-Beast hollow fly. Now, extended body tube fly tying is going to have three massive advantages that are pretty cool. The first is the accessibility, as in you don't need any new skill set to be able to pull it off, right? You just put that tube on an adapter, start tying the same way you would tie anything else. So it should be very welcoming to get into. The second thing is the fact that you can line them with anything. I mean, you're going to tie your tube and then you're going to line it. You're going to put line through the tube to attach it to the hook and tie it down. Now that could be mono or Floro or wire or nickel titanium wire, or you see my point. You can line them with anything, so you can make them bite proof. You could rig them with stinger hooks, which we're going to get to, or you can even use monofilament or fluorocarbon that doesn't have the memory taken out of it. So you no longer need kind of the processing to make the mono straight. The second thing is you get one big long tube. Well, you don't have to tie on one big long tube. You can make it any length you want, short, medium, long, and you can also split it up to make things like swim bait split rigs or massive extended body multi-joint sections. So what I want to do, we're going to look at each one of these rigs real quick and kind of just do pros and cons and show you how they all work. And then to finish things off, I'm going to whip up a dubbing brush here and I'll tie an extended body tube fly so you understand everything that's going on. But we'll probably tie something like this, which would be Squimpish Flies, Squimpish Hair Beast. It's going to be sweet. Now there's two big cons to the tubes. One, there's a bunch of different adapters and a bunch of different tubes. It's not so simple as just, hey, get some thick diameter mono and make it straight. You're good to go, right? So you're going to have to go through what kind of adapter fits in your vise or works well or fits the tube you want. But the other downside is tubes are much larger in circumference than mono, which means you need to put more bucktail or more material on, or it's going to take up more of a dubbing brush as you turn it to dress them. So that circumference is going to eat up a lot more material. The flies are going to typically be heavier dressed. So you're going to want to try to find the smallest diameter tubes you can that are still going to be suitable for your application so that it's as close to the monofilament spectrum as you can get. Now this is an HMH adapter here. It's got a little knife blade right here so it stops the tube from rotating, so you can turn stuff on it and tie and it's not going to spin around. But this is how this works, right? You got your tube lined with a needle so it's rigid. You put the adapter in your vise so you can tie like normal, and now I don't need any special skill set to be able to tie these flies. Now you're going to dress this in its full length or whatever length you want. Now you would take this dressed tube, you take a piece of mono or Floro or whatever you want, you'd run it up through the tube, you'd suck your knot into some sort of connecting tubing, or you can just leave the knot hard at the end. This is just an overhand knot right here and it just stops it from falling off, and then you just tie it onto your hook. Voila, you got an extended body. You don't want to make a solid tube section super duper long. And this is what I mean. If you have it crazy long, understand that this cannot bend or flex anywhere in this tube. And so all of the stress is going to be isolated to this single joint. This cannot bend. This is linear. This is staying nice and linear, but all that stress is happening right here. Now, if you were to rig that with wire, the wire would fail eventually, right? The wire's not going to like that. So if you're going to do just a straight section, I would say keep it at about 2.5 inches max. Anytime you go over that, you're going to want to break the tube into joints and introduce joints into the tube so that it can bend progressively just like it would on the mono. And you can see down here at the base, there's no stress right here. There's absolutely no stress. It's going straight out and the tube is bending along the arc of the monofilament, and so that rig is going to be much more friendlier to long, massively long extensions, or flies rigged with wire, so you don't get wire failure. Now, something I already mentioned is the tubes can be split up. So this is an example here of where you tie a tail section on a tube, you'd tie a mid-body section on a tube, you'd thread them both onto 2 pieces of mono. That then creates the mono split rig for tying on the GB Predator swim bait hook. Now, one of the other massive advantages of the tube fly is the fact that you don't have to rig it with monofilament, but you can also rig it with titanium wire, which means you can use the tube as an extended body going to a stinger hook. How sick is that? So now, instead of having a naked section between your hook and your stinger hook, you can fully dress all of the distance in between. That also applies to the split tube sections. If you wanted to do, say, a beast and make it super long, this is just threaded through multiple tubes. So as you tie each little section and you thread it on your mono, you thread, I have 1, 2, 3 sections here, and then I introduce my stinger hook and I thread them all on, and then you tie it all off. And that's exactly how this one's made. And this one's got musky slime on it. This has been a very productive fly for me, and it's got that stinger hook right there that just drops down. So it is that straightforward. You tie in a tube, you run something through it, you attach it to a hook. Mono, floral, nylon coated stainless steel, nickel titanium, stinger hook rigs, split the tube into different joints so you can create split rigs. You can do whatever you want with it. It's pretty cool. So let's get a tube in the vise. I'm going to whip up a dubbing brush real quick, and let's tie an extended body, squimpish hair, beast fly. Come in, make sure everything's nice and taut, nothing's slipping. You don't want to overdo it. This is going to be my tube section. This is going to be my hook section. You can see I built the brush specific to the fly. I always make the brush. This is my fly right here. This was all the skill, all the design work, all the density, the different core lengths, the different color fades, the flash, how sparse it is. I built the fly right here, and now I'm just going to wrap it on my tube and wrap it on my hook, and bada bing, bada boom, you got a squimpish beast. So I hope you guys will check that out. Hope that was helpful. Please check out Jari Koski's blog and make sure you give that a full rundown, and it's really worth your time to read. But that right there is an extended body tube fly rigged with a stinger hook, ran through with titanium wire, bite-proof synthetic beast fly. Thanks for watching, guys.